let's get right into the first topic, which is Wemby's MVP case. And it's very interesting that we're here and we've gotten to this point now with Wemby. And I'm not surprised about Wemby in the comments that he made in his conference, in the press conference, because he's been talking like that since his career started. This guy is very competitive. We saw the energy in the All-Star game. We've seen how he makes stands about him considering himself to be the best over Shea. Luka, he said this earlier in the season. Luka, Joker, like he brought these specific people up and he said, I think I am better than them. And he was at that time sitting at like number 5 in the MVP chain. And so today when I woke up and I see that the NBA.com dropped the most recent MVP ladder and Wemby is at the very top of the list, above Shea, above Luka, above them all. All right. You know who wasn't on the list? Draymond Green. But yet, here he is in another press conference reacting or giving his thoughts to Wemby's comments in the media. So first, I'm going to play Wemby's press conference. Even if you've seen it or haven't seen it, I just wanted to give a little context before I dive into Draymond's conference because, you know, everyone's been giving their takes on it. But I have a thought that I wanted to bring to the table when I listened to what he said specifically. And I think Draymond just, you know what? I'm going to hold off before we get into it. So I'm just going to play that first. I'm going to play Wemby first. It's long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Maybe not. Okay. Let's get into it. Hopefully you can hear it.
There is a debate, you know, that should be, even though I think I should lead the race. And I'm trying to make sure that until the end of the season, there's no debate anymore.
Do you want to repeat the argument that we just had?
Hold on. So first of all, this conference came out before the MVP ladder came up. Yo said it's not a debate anymore. He said, I know it's been a debate, but it's not one anymore. Wemby, can you see the future? No, you just believe in yourself that much. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I love the energy that you bring. Keep all these guys on their toes because they're getting paid millions of dollars to not play on both sides of the court. And it's getting to be ridiculous. And it's been ridiculous. It's getting to be ridiculous because Draymond is making comments as if nothing's going to change. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. But that was fire. Let's keep going.
About why you feel like you should be MVP?
I mean...
Also, you hear the reporter say, why do you feel like you should be MVP? I don't watch press conferences often, but I am very curious if they ask all the guys these questions. Are they asking Shea? Are they asking Luka, do you feel like you should be MVP? No, I think some of that has to do with Wemby's campaign. You know, some people call it a campaign effort by Wemby. Like he's trying to make it like he has to pretty much put a stamp on it, like I am the MVP, like he has to say it. And I think Draymond alludes to a little bit of like, just show it, just do it. That was the energy that Draymond gives. And it might be some comments that the haters are having about Wemby, but I don't see anything wrong with a guy coming in the league who's a freak of nature, expected to do all these great things, by the way. Nobody's shocked that Wemby is performing at the level that he's performing at. And for him to continue to say, I am the best. There's guys that say that they are the best all the time. For you to say it and then actually become it, come on.
There's many reasons. But as I said, I think right now it is still reasonable that there is a debate. But as I said, I want to make sure, my goal is to make sure that there's no debate anymore at the end of the season. But so what? Maybe asking a more precise question.
What would you say what are your 3 campaign speeches?
3?
The 3 campaign arguments. Speeches is crazy. 3 campaign speeches.
My first one would be that defense is 50% of the game and that it is undervalued so far in the MVP race. because
Okay, I do want to point out though, this is it is low key a tough debate this year. Like last year, it was debatable between not Wemby, sorry, Joker and Shea, because of Joker's numbers were like, if you compared both of the numbers, both guys were averaging 30 points per game. Yeah, Joker had a little more rebounds on Shea, but Shea had a lot more steals over Joker. Like you look at their numbers and then even the efforts of their team, obviously OKC had a better team and ended up winning the championship. But the point I'm trying to make, in the regular season race for MVP towards the end of the season, it really came down to two guys. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, this season it's quite difficult. I mean, we have a lot, there's a lot to say about what Wemby's done, what Luka has been doing towards the end of the season, and pretty much all season low key. And then Jaylen Brown, like, and then if Cade Cunningham didn't fall out, I feel like there's just so much to say about all of these guys that it's really difficult. Super difficult. Oh, and then obviously Shea and Joker. I'm not leaving those guys out, but the fact that there's over 6 people where I'm just like, bro, I gotta choose one of these guys. And honestly, it just depends on which way, what do you value more about the game. Now, real quick, I'm gonna pause on this and I'm gonna because right now we're in the part where Wemby's talking about his campaign, right? His reasons for campaigning. His first reason was 50-50, but before he even got into his campaign reasons, Wemby said, I want to make sure there is no debate by the end of the season. This has to be one of the greatest debates we've had in a long time in the modern era of basketball, trying to decide who is going to be the MVP, right? Now, look at this screenshot of from the official NBA updates via Instagram. This is what the MVP candidates and their team's record without them. Because I know one part of the conversation of what even an MVP candidate is in the criteria, the qualifications, it honestly varies per person, per blog, per media, per anybody you talk to be honest. That's even like the first part of any conversation we have surrounding the MVP. So when you look at these 6 guys, for the one part about the most valuable player, who brings the most value to their team, this is what their team is without their players. For the Spurs, Wemby, they're 10-5. So they have a winning record without Wemby. Actually, what do you notice about all of these guys? All of their teams have winning records without them. Mind you, it's very interesting. Jaylen Brown seems to have missed the least amount of games out of everybody, having only missed 7 with the 6-1. Then the next up is, if I do my math quickly and right, maybe Shea with 11. Then you got Cade with 12, Luka with 12, and then Wemby with 15 and Joker with 16. So just taking into consideration the amounts of games that these guys have missed in comparison to each other. But it's interesting. Well, the winning records per se, the 500 for the Lakers are still considered a winning record. And honestly, based on the Lakers season and the push that they've made, and even with LeBron and in the efforts of the Lakers, I would say that Luka is for sure championing and carrying them. Without Luka, and then if Anthony Davis was still on the team, I don't think that they would have even been that good this year, just compared to how well all the other teams in the league have been playing, notably the teams that are being led by these MVP candidates. Right. So I really wanted to just show that and factor this in, where it's fascinating to see. I mean, looking at the ratio, Jaylen Brown, I would say, because they're all so close in the debate, can we then kind of neutralize that point of the criteria, or do we still count it? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Just based on this screenshot, do we neutralize that part of the obviously it still counts, but can we maybe put it aside for right now? Because it looks like all of them pretty much line up the same way in a certain capacity. If that makes sense what I'm saying. All right, let me check the chat real quick. Let me see what y'all saying. I'm gonna go back here. Hey, great show. Salute. I appreciate all the love I see in the chat. Oh, I like this take. MVP equals media's valuable player. That is hilarious. Okay. All right, let me go back. Let's keep pushing towards these things because I'm low key dragging it. Before we even get into the thick of it, which is Draymond. All right, let's keep going. Again, we're at the point where he already gave his first campaign reason for MVP, and that would be 50% of the game is defense.
I believe I'm the most impactful player defensively in the league. Second argument would be that we almost swept OKC in the season, and we dominated them 3 times with their real team and 4 times with the.
Okay, so you're saying, guys, we swept the Oklahoma City Thunder 3 times in the regular season, notably during the NBA Cup when it definitely was a playoff environment. And he's calling that out because Shea, SGA, was the MVP last season and they have the best team overall this season. And he's saying, listen, we already beat them, swept them, got them out of there. That's my second reason for MVP because I'm already beating the top teams. Mind you, in the last 2 months, the Spurs have only lost 2 games.
More rotation players. And my third argument would be that offense impact is not just points.
Enjoying that.
Okay, he said offensive impact is not just points. Shade to Luka. This is what I love about Wemby's campaign speech because I'm not going to lie, he's pretty much debunking some of the debates that people are putting forward for the guys that are now listed below him. So I'm not going to lie, the fact that the NBA MVP list dropped today and it's just after what Draymond said, it's we love it. We love to see it. All right, we're going to move on to Draymond Green. Let me make sure everything still looks good because it's not like I have a producer and I could be like, does it look good? All right, we look good. We look good. All right, but so we're going to play what Draymond talking about. Now, it's way longer than this, but this is probably the most important part.
I hated it, and I absolutely loved it. And the reason is because the reason I hated it is because until Wemby said defense is 50% of the game, it was like, oh man, no one realized that, right? Like no one realized that 50% of the game we play is.
Okay, he's a hater. He is a hater. Like what? First of all, I don't know if his anger is coming from the fact that Draymond Green himself definitely contribute to the wins for the Warriors in a way that had nothing to do with points, definitely because of defense and because of offensive plays that were made that were more than points, similar to Wemby's points about his campaign. And because Draymond's been in the league for so long, he's a 4-time champion. I do think initially when I heard him say this, I thought he was coming from a place of talking specifically maybe to the media, maybe to the fans, maybe to what puts fans in the seats or brings the money, the bang, the cha-chang. That's what separates the WNBA and the NBA at times. It's people saying like the excitement of watching the game. And I don't know if it's more exciting for a 3-point ball to a swish for a 3-pointer or a chase down block. You feel what I'm saying? I don't know if there's more excitement from one or the other, but I will say watching someone score a 60-point game is pretty exciting. That's really exciting. I'm not gonna that's amazing. Watching Jamal Murray get 33 points by the second quarter and it was still 3 minutes left in that second quarter, mind blowing. I was like jaw dropped. I wouldn't say the same for logging on to see Wemby had 6 blocks in a game. I'd be like, oh, all right, then that's tough. Now, this is coming from a player who believes defense wins games. I was defensive player of the year of my conference my junior year because I value defense way more than I did offense, but I still scored. But the point I'm trying to make is when I first heard Draymond say this, I thought he was coming from a place of we all should be talking about defense, but he did it by kind of martyring or stepping on Wemby, and I don't like that. I don't see anything wrong with Wemby talking about what separates him. We're talking about the debate, but like that's what I'm saying. Draymond obviously wasn't, he was trying to get his jabs in, and he literally was, have you ever seen a fight and you ever seen a person end up hitting maybe someone who was trying to help in the process of trying to hitting their opponent? I feel like that's what Draymond was doing in this moment. He was still hitting Wemby when he was trying to make a point about defense overall. And if Draymond has a problem with the current culture and state of the game surrounding the media, or how people perceive it, or what they consider to be entertaining, valuable, if you will, I think that stepping on Wemby's moment and his comments about his own personal game and contributions to the game was so corny. It was the corniest thing he could have done, because nobody's going to listen to you when you say things like nobody, if you are such a voice, such a leader, such a person, a presence that's been in the league for this long, why is it, Draymond, that you decide to stomp on, like you stomped on Sabonis and now you stomping on Wemby? And I'm talking about this like figuratively. Why do you have to stomp on people to make your points? I think if you're such a great media guy, you shouldn't be. If you're so much for the game of basketball, what is the problem with Wemby saying that? Wouldn't you want more guys like Wemby saying the things that you are so-called advocating for? That's what I'm saying. Like, bro, you make no sense. You make no sense.
On that end of the floor. So he comes out and makes this profound ass statement, and it's like, oh, of course it is. And everybody's like, oh man, he has a great point. Hello? You think? So I hated it because he had to do that for that to then be said. I love the way he was approaching it. And the reality is, I said I hate it. But I'm just telling you, man, in these awards, if you don't talk, people can't see.
Now, that part I do appreciate from Draymond. And I'm going to stop sharing. Wait, hold on. Because at the end, when he was like, that part people don't see, I can definitely see what he's saying in that, towards the end. I think he realized after he went on that little rant, he was like, wow, maybe I'm not really getting my point across how I was trying to get it across initially. So I'll give Draymond some grace about that. But with the whole like, oh, he doesn't have to say it for it to then be true. I think in this game of basketball and how much we do put on a pedestal scoring, it's one of those things where with Luka, you remember how fast they turned on Luka within a week, and then he drops 100 points in a back-to-back game, and now he's back to being people's favorite? It's crazy. So I think we could continue to put out that narrative for sure, like tear down that narrative, continue your efforts in it no matter who's saying it. But with Luka, I think, and even Joker, a lot can be said about the fact that those guys don't play the best on one side of the court. And that then adds to the debate for people to usher in other guys like JB, who's going to guard the best players on the team, or usher in a Wemby, who I would say is more of a defensive threat than he is an offensive threat. You feel what I'm saying? So it's definitely, it's an interesting topic. It's very complicated, has a lot of layers to it. What I don't want to see happening from Draymond ever again, but we probably will continue to see it, is him stomping on anybody, just stomping to make his points. But I really love the fact that Wemby is continuing to campaign and bring that competitiveness. I wouldn't even call it campaigning for himself. I would call it just being competitive, because what's the difference between Anthony Edwards dropping that commercial versus Wemby just saying it and actually doing it? You feel what I'm saying? We should be talking about how corny that commercial was, versus because Anthony Edwards is nowhere to be found at the top. You feel what I'm saying? He's nowhere to be. He's a great player, but MVP of the league, sure. Nah, you see what I'm saying? So for the fact that Wemby's actually like been saying it since the beginning, now he's showing it, and the proof is in the pudding. I'm gonna check the chat real quick. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Draymond calls everyone a hater and an idiot. He's projecting his own lack of intelligent reasoning. It's so interesting that I don't know if the NBA, because of his tenure and the success that he's garnished over the years, because he gets a lot of commentating positions and opportunities, if you will. I am very curious if they do it for the sake of the fact that he's a polarizing guy, kind of similar to Stephen A. Like, he's so polarizing. I barely see any type of good comments for Draymond, but yet here he is, probably going to be Hall of Fame, probably going to, like Steve Kerr said, get a statue. I don't know. Yeah, but that's just so interesting. More namely, I really truly enjoyed Wemby on top of the MVP ladder. I had dropped an episode earlier in the season, and I said if he doesn't stay healthy, he can never be the best player. So I'm really happy to see that he's maintained his health towards the majority of the season, and that he's able to sit up there and say, yeah, I'm the best, and also show it. So I really truly enjoy that.